Tuasen's red hair fluttered wildly as he grinned savagely. With his right hand, he tore at the sky once more. Suddenly, the earth-shaking sound of an explosion reverberated as the rift in the blood-red sky was torn open even wider, several times larger than before. At a glance, it seemed to nearly pierce the entire sky. It was as though a cloth had been ripped apart in the middle, splitting into two halves. In that instant, the figures of cultivators from the sea of blood shot into the air like meteors, charging upwards. Under Tuasen's pointed finger, they passed by him and entered the void. Tuasen's right hand reached back, and the blood-red waters of the sea of blood roared like a storm. It seemed as though an unimaginable force enveloped everything, and under the deafening sound, the endless sea of blood was lifted from the ground, rushing toward the sky rift. As it neared, the sea of blood began to wriggle and transformed into a massive blood dragon. The dragon was so enormous that it could block the sky and the moon. Accompanied by the ancient Qi practitioners, it charged into the rift, roaring as it went. At the same time, within the void, a bloodstorm erupted as numerous ancient Qi practitioners entered, triggering a bloody massacre. All of this happened because, at the very moment these ancient Qi practitioners stepped out of the rift, they heard Tuasen's voice ringing in their ears. I want this ancient god ruins to be filled with the scent of blood. These ancient Qi practitioners were by no means weak. However, their bodies were sealed by Tuasen's power, preventing them from unleashing their full cultivation. After all, when Tuasen was trapped all those years ago, countless seals were placed within him, and it would take several cultivators working together to weaken one seal. It was rare for anyone to bear a seal on their own. But over the past 1,000 years, as the seal on the sea of blood grew weaker, Tuasen's release accelerated, and with it, the weakening of the seals on his body. Those cultivators who had once helped him disperse the seals saw their own seals weakening as well, and the cultivation they could now release was far beyond what Wang Lin first encountered when he came here. The void was filled with a red mist, and the ancient Qi practitioners who emerged from the sea of blood resembled sea dragons, their bloodshot eyes cold and merciless. They followed Tuasen's command, engaging in a brutal battle within the void. No matter where the cultivators came from, they were all prey to these bloodthirsty ancient Qi practitioners in red robes. While they might not have been able to unleash the full extent of their power in this cultivator-filled void, the blood dragon formed from the sea of blood possessed unimaginable divine abilities. Its appearance instantly overwhelmed the void with an immense pressure. The blood dragon's massive form, spanning tens of thousands of feet, looked overwhelming from a distance. Up close, it was even more awe-inspiring. Cultivators who faced it appeared like mere ants before it. Roaring, the blood dragon surged through the void, and with every movement, blood lights spread out, illuminating the emptiness. Sonic booms echoed, and it didn't need to use any divine abilities. With its unimaginable speed, a single charge was enough to cause the cultivators in its path to collapse and die. At that moment, a group of corpse insect cultivators were besieging a red-robed Qi practitioner. The battle was intense when, from a distance, a massive red glow shot into the sky. Before anyone could react, a powerful gust of wind howled, causing the cultivators to stagger backward. In an instant, a massive, sky-blocking red dragon's head seemed to appear out of thin air. No one could see how it arrived. Its speed was simply too fast. In the split second when the cultivator's pupils contracted, the giant dragon's head collided with them. With a series of violent impacts, the frontmost cultivators were unable to dodge, and their bodies were struck by the dragon's head. It was as though they had been hit by a cultivation star itself. With a tremendous crash, their physical forms shattered, turning into meat paste, which exploded into blood mist. Even their soul essences couldn't escape, being drawn into the blood dragon's body by some strange force. The remaining cultivators tried to retreat, but all they saw was bloodlight. As the dragon's head dashed past, its massive body appeared before their eyes. This would be the last image they ever saw. The dragon's tail swept through, and all the cultivators present perished as their bodies collapsed into nothing. Everything seemed slow, but in reality, it took only 3 breaths. By the time the blood mist had spread and the sonic booms lagged behind the speed of the blood dragon, more than 1,000 cultivators had already fallen to the dragon's wrath. Its body was even larger now, stretching over 10,000 feet, and it looked even more terrifying from a distance. After a brief pause, the blood dragon roared and shot toward the center of the void. Its speed was so fast that all that could be seen was the flickering blood light, though the dragon's form was indistinguishable. Deep within the void, the 8 kings of the cultivation sect transformed into 8 brilliant rainbows, chasing after 4 ancient chi practitioners who were desperately fleeing ahead of them. No matter how fast the 4 ancient practitioners tried to escape, they could not outrun the pursuit of the 8 behind them. The 8 kings of the cultivation sect appeared to be of various ages, but without exception, their expressions were cold as ice, their faces deathly pale, as if they were corpses. However, the cultivation power that erupted from their bodies was earth-shattering. Throughout their journey, the 8 never separated. Any ancient cultivators they encountered were instantly sealed and captured by them. At this moment, the 4 chi practitioners ahead had not escaped far before their bodies suddenly jerked in strange spasms, and their speed drastically slowed down. In the end, one of the 8 kings from the cultivation sect flicked his sleeve, and it seemed like the 4 chi practitioners would soon be captured by him. But just then, a blood-red light spread through the distant void. The expressions of the 8 immediately changed, and they looked up. With their cultivation, they could easily see a huge, menacing blood dragon roaring towards them from the front. The blood dragon was so massive that even the 8 of them had their pupils contract in shock. Form the 4th cultivation formation. One of the old men with purple hair immediately roared. Without hesitation, the 8 of them all sat cross-legged on the ground, their hands forming seals as they waved forward. In an instant, a chilling aura erupted from their bodies, rapidly turning into a sheet of black, profound ice. The growth of the profound ice did not stop, and in the blink of an eye, it had expanded to nearly 100 feet in size, forming into a giant of profound ice. The moment the giant took shape, the 8 practitioners inside its abdomen moved quickly. One stayed in the center of the abdomen, one went to the left arm, another to the right arm, 2 positioned at the legs, 1 at the chest, and the last 2 sat cross-legged inside the head of the giant, becoming its eyes. In that instant, the giant's eyes emitted eerie light as if it had suddenly awakened from a deep slumber. A massive and indescribable aura instantly erupted from its body. At this moment, the distant blood dragon howled as a fierce wind swept across. The blood dragon charged straight towards the giant, and they collided head-on. Boom, boom, boom. The earth-shattering sounds instantly echoed out from the center of this location, resonating furiously through the entire void. All cultivators present in the void immediately felt the tremors and looked on in horror. The blood dragon and the profound ice collided. Amid the roar, the giant of profound ice gripped the dragon's head, and its body staggered backward, retreating 1,000 feet. The sound of cracks and explosions continued to echo. The giant's body was covered in large cracks, especially the 2 practitioners who had been seated within the arms. Both spurted blood, yet their expressions became even more ferocious. With a low growl, the giant took a step back, and with a thunderous boom, its right leg shattered large portions of the ice, but it did not collapse, halting its retreat. As the 8 practitioners inside the giant formed hand seals and roared in unison, a tremendous force surged from the giant's body. It grabbed the massive blood dragon and flung it viciously to the side. Immediately, the blood dragon roared as its body was sent flying, but it didn't stop. Instead, its tail swept across and headed straight for the giant. In an instant, it howled towards the giant again, and another thunderous collision shook the air as the giant staggered backward, its cracks increasing. The blood dragon's head whipped around, and at this close range, its speed exploded once again as it charged straight toward the giant, causing another deafening crash. The giant retreated step by step, and the 8 inside its body had grim expressions. At this moment, the old man in the abdomen of the giant's body, his eyes flashing with a sinister glow, whispered, "Form the 3rd cultivation formation." His voice echoed inside the profound ice giant's body and reached the ears of the other 7. Just as he finished speaking, the blood dragon once again slammed into the giant, and the giant's body was immediately thrown far away like a kite with its string cut. The head of the blood dragon was now blurry, clearly battered from the continuous collisions. Even it could hardly withstand the pressure. But the blood dragon, its eyes bloodshot with fury, charged once more, determined to crush the profound ice giant. The thrown ice giant immediately curled up into a ball, its arms hugging its body and legs bending inwards. The entire figure quickly fused together, and in an instant, it completed the transformation from the 4th corpse in formation to the 3rd. What stood before the blood dragon was no longer a giant, but a massive ice ball. What was terrifying was that countless sharp ice spikes suddenly erupted from the surface of the ball, emitting an eerie blue glow, clearly containing deadly poison. At this moment, deep within the void, Wang Lin's face darkened, his figure like a streak of light. Behind him, 3 red-clad ancient Qi practitioners, filled with murderous intent, followed closely, their cold eyes fixed on the retreating figures. The 2 sides drew closer and closer. In the blink of an eye, they collided violently. A thunderous sound erupted, and the ice sphere shattered the moment it struck the blood dragon's head, immediately breaking apart into 8 pieces of profound ice, exploding outward. But at the moment of the explosion, a tremendous shockwave blasted outward from the shattered ice sphere, directly hitting the head of the blood dragon that was charging forward. Roar! The blood dragon let out a furious roar, mixed with the sound of intense pain. Its massive body shuddered, and it immediately began to retreat frantically. Originally composed of the blood sea, its body was bathed in a deep red color, but now, a dark glow surrounded it. Where the dark glow passed, a crackling sound echoed, as if the blood dragon was on the verge of being completely frozen in ice. From a distance, the blood dragon fled rapidly, its agonized roars still echoing and spreading through the air. The 8 shards of profound ice that had exploded from the ice sphere were now melting one by one, revealing the king of the corpse insect within. However, from the 7th shard of profound ice, a middle-aged man staggered out, vomiting a mouthful of blood. A crack appeared at the center of his brow and instantly extended throughout his body, splitting him in 2. In an instant, the man's body collapsed, and a wisp of cold energy floated out from within, taking the shape of a human figure. The figure silently observed the 7 people around it. This body can't withstand the previous force. As soon as the figure spoke, an elder from the 7 reached out and grasped the air. A storage rift appeared, and a coffin, carved with purple patterns, flew out. The cold energy-formed figure flickered and entered the coffin, and moments later, the coffin lid flew off with a loud bang. Inside the coffin, a young child, around 7 or 8 years old, slowly sat up. The child stretched his limbs, then nodded at the 7 people around him. Chase! The elder who had summoned the coffin spoke decisively. Without hesitation, the 8 of them turned into streaks of light, speeding towards the direction where the blood dragon had fled. As for Wang Lin, he had been following the trace of the blood light ripples, heading towards the source of the disturbance. But when he arrived, he found nothing, only the terrifying residual power from the fluctuations in the surrounding space, as if witnessing an intense divine battle that had once occurred here. Wang Lin didn't stay long and immediately changed direction. But before he could move too far, he felt a sudden, massive, and all-encompassing tremor in the void realm. Though the tremor might not be familiar to others, Wang Lin immediately recognized it. He clearly remembered that when Tua's son had emerged from the Blood Sea years ago, the void had vibrated exactly the same way. Soon, the tremor dissipated, but the void realm now radiated over 100 powerful auras. Wang Lin's scalp tingled, and he immediately sped up, trying to distance himself from the source of these auras. However, just then, 3 red figures suddenly appeared in the distance within the void. They saw Wang Lin at once and charged straight toward him. These 3 red figures were all ancient Qi practitioners, 2 of whom were at the early pure nirvana stage, while the third, the most powerful, was at the perfect late pure nirvana stage, just 1 step away from shattered nirvana. Without hesitation, Wang Lin reached out with his right hand and grasped the air, immediately pulling out a yellow rune paper from the storage rift in front of him. He slapped it against his chest, and a whirlwind shot up from his body, enveloping him and transforming him into a shadow as he sped forward. The distance between them was instantly widened. Wang Lin's face darkened. He knew that just moments ago, the Bloodsea world had opened, and large numbers of ancient Qi practitioners had emerged from it. The cultivation of these ancient Qi practitioners was far beyond what he had encountered in the past. This was illogical, but when he thought of Tuo Sen's existence, Wang Lin realized that such matters were beyond his control. Tuo Sen should be about to emerge. Wang Lin thought quickly as he raced, and after a moment, his divine sense swept behind him. He immediately furrowed his brow. The three ancient Qi practitioners had somehow increased their speed, and while they were still falling behind, they were closing the distance much more quickly than before. Two at the early pure nirvana stage, one at perfect pure nirvana. After traveling for some distance, Wang Lin's eyes flashed with killing intent. If these three continued to chase him, he would be in danger if he encountered more ancient Qi practitioners ahead. With his divine sense scanning the area, Wang Lin's gaze flickered. He suddenly came to a halt, turning around and making hand seals. Cold light radiated from his eyes, and in the blink of an eye, an illusory volcano appeared around him. As his hand seals merged with the immortal power inside him, the illusory volcano grew increasingly solid. Finally, it almost became real, but with a flick of Wang Lin's sleeve, all the solidified volcanoes disappeared. This place is dangerous. We must end this quickly. As Wang Lin looked up, three long rainbows shot through the sky in a pin-shaped formation. Leading them was a red-robed elder whose cultivation had reached the perfect pure nirvana stage. This elder moved with astonishing speed. As he closed in with a piercing howl, Wang Lin narrowed his eyes and took a step back. He raised his right hand and pointed forward, shouting in a low voice, "Still." With that single word, the laws of heaven and earth roared into action. The red-robed elder instantly felt countless invisible threads materialize from nowhere, binding tightly around him. His body froze momentarily. Though Wang Lin was only at the early pure nirvana stage, using the body immobilization art brought backlash. But the recoil was manageable. He forced it down and retreated swiftly. The elder was momentarily halted, but the two behind him moved at full speed. In this contrast between motion and stillness, the second and third elders shot forward. As they came within 100 feet, Wang Lin's eyes flashed with killing intent. Forming hand seals, he pointed ahead and shouted, "Mountain!" At his command, two towering volcanoes erupted right in front of the charging enemies. A mighty force surged outward. The two elders' expressions shifted. They tried to change course, but Wang Lin had long since prepared the area. No matter their position, once within 100 feet, they would trigger the mountain collapse immortal art. Collapse. Without giving them the slightest chance, Wang Lin bellowed just as he retreated. A deafening roar followed as the volcanoes crumbled. Lava poured down in torrents, unleashing a force that could destroy everything in its path. The volcanic blasts exploded outward, sending shockwaves in every direction. This overwhelming might gave Wang Lin a dominant edge among cultivators of the same stage. Amidst the rumble, the two elders were thrown into disarray. Blood spurted from their mouths, and they staggered back, heavily wounded. Seizing the opportunity, Wang Lin stepped forward, transforming into a streak of light. In a flash, he appeared behind one of the elders. His right hand formed a sword with two fingers, thrusting forward like a shooting star, stabbing directly into the man's forehead. The elder had already suffered grievous injuries from the collapsing mountains. Now, his entire body trembled and instantly disintegrated into a bloody mist. Yet, just before death, a faint smile of relief curved at the corners of his lips. Seeing that smile, Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. He stepped back, intending to finish off the other elder quickly. But suddenly, an intense sense of danger surged through his mind. Wang Lin's pupils shrank. He abandoned the kill instantly and retreated at an impossible angle using spatial shift. Just as he vanished, a towering pillar of bloodlight swept in from the distance. It was the blood dragon, grievously wounded by the combined assault of the 8 kings of the Corpsine sect, now howling as it charged forward. Half its body had turned into blue ice crystals, a chilling sight to behold. Yet its speed hadn't diminished. If anything, it had grown faster. In a blur, it swept past Wang Lin. The violent gusts from its passage shook him, forcing his body to flicker and dodge. Inside, the sound of cracking rang out. His stone-formed clone now bore a fracture across the chest. When he looked up again, the blood dragon was already far ahead. Both the perfect pure Nirvana Elder and the other wounded cultivator had vanished. No trace remained. A cold dread rose from within Wang Lin. His eyes showed a hint of shock. But when he recalled the spreading blue ice on the blood dragon, he instantly retreated, moving at full speed to escape the area. With his keen intuition, Wang Lin understood at once. The blood dragon was clearly injured and fleeing, which meant someone must be chasing it. And whoever could pursue the blood dragon was not someone Wang Lin wanted to encounter unprepared. He hadn't gone far when 8 brilliant rainbows streaked through the sky, chasing in the direction the blood dragon had fled. In one of them stood a fierce-looking middle-aged man who gave Wang Lin a sharp glance, muttered a surprised, "Oh," but didn't stop. In the blink of an eye, all 8 disappeared into the void. Wang Lin's eyes flickered. He reached into the air and summoned a storage rift, pulling out a swift talisman hide and slapping it onto his chest before launching forward. His speed soared, reaching the pinnacle of everything he had cultivated over more than 1,000 years, as he dashed off in pursuit. A faint instinct stirred within him. Tuasun was about to appear. The blood dragon raced forward, howling in fury. Half its body was now crystallized with ice. The spreading blue light ignited its rage, but it still pressed forward with unmatched speed until it reached the heart of this void realm. There, it coiled its massive body and began chanting in an ancient tongue. A moment later, an ancient, primeval aura spread across the void. Suddenly, it threw its head back and let out a sky-shattering roar. Under the roar, a wave of the power of time emanated from the blood dragon's mouth, instantly enveloping the entire void realm. Years ago, on Vermilion Birdstar, Wang Lin had met someone whose realm was none other than the concept of time itself. At that time, Wang Lin had felt the immense power of this concept of time. Even Yun Kazi, back then, paid great attention to this very concept. It could be said that on the entire Vermilion Birdstar, only that one person had such a realm. Now, the words of the ancient blood dragon reverberated, and a force of time appeared around it. This force surpassed the concept of time by countless times, beyond comparison. It had already become a rule. This rule was determined by the ancient blood dragon, who had invoked this divine art. Under the influence of the rule of time, the entire void realm was covered, and within it, a group of Luo Tian cultivators was flying cautiously, watching their surroundings. There were dozens of them, and unless they encountered particularly powerful ancient Qi practitioners, they could stand their ground in the void. But now, as the power of time echoed and passed through them, the youngest of the cultivators, a youth who appeared to be in his early 20s, suddenly shuddered. Though his appearance didn't reflect his true age, he looked just like that. His trembling wasn't under his control. It came out of nowhere, as if a cold chill had risen from within him. Gradually, his smooth skin began to wrinkle, and soon the wrinkles kept accumulating. He felt unusually fatigued, and his cultivation began to stagnate. This all happened in the blink of an eye. The young man was still in confusion when, from what seemed like a great distance, he heard cries of horror, cries filled with terror. The young man froze, wanting to turn his head to look, but his body was stiff, and even the motion of turning his head felt difficult. What's happening to me? The youth's vision became blurry, and the clarity he once had was gone, as if a fog had surrounded him. Slowly, he raised his hand, rubbing his eyes, trying to clear the mist. Perhaps the rubbing worked for a moment, and his vision cleared briefly. He saw his companions moving farther away from him, their gazes filled with fear and horror. He saw his beloved junior sister, the one he had promised to spend his life with, now staring at him in terror, her face devoid of the tenderness she once showed. The last thing he saw was his right hand, which he had used to rub his eyes. It was a hand covered in wrinkles and brown spots. The youth's body trembled even more as he struggled to lift his hand to touch his face. He opened his mouth, as if a scream of horror was about to escape, but The sound was forever buried within him, never to emerge again. For his eyes had lost all vitality, and as he aged in front of his companions, his hair fell out, his teeth rotted, his bones shattered. Eventually, he seemed unable to bear even the weight of his skin, crumbling into dust. His physical body contracted and perished. He died of old age. This bizarre scene left everyone around in stunned silence, beyond what the surrounding cultivators could have imagined. Yet, time showed no mercy, giving them not a moment of respite. Among them, a woman began to show signs of aging. Soon, it seemed as if the aging could spread, and all the cultivators began to experience it. It was as if, in that very moment, the heavens revoked their status as cultivators, stripped them of their eligibility to live for hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of years, and took away all their rights. The years of hundreds, thousands, or tens of thousands of life were suddenly thrust upon them. The scene wasn't limited to just these few dozen cultivators. Throughout the entire Void Realm, this same event occurred again and again, with cultivators from all over unable to escape the descending rule of time. Only shattered Nirvana cultivators could resist, but there were few of them. Whenever a cultivator perished due to the power of time, an invisible aura would emanate from their body, rapidly heading toward the center of the Void Realm. Gradually, in the Void Realm, these auras sped toward the center, their speed incomparable to that of a cultivator. It was as if they were an intrinsic part of the world, and once they moved, they would reach the center of the Void Realm in an instant, inside the ancient blood dragon's body. As cultivators continued to die, the number of these auras grew, merging with the blood dragon's body. Soon, the blue ice crystals on its body began to crack, as if new life had been injected into it, causing the crystals to shatter. The 8 kings of the Corpsine sect were unaffected by this time divine art. Their figures, like rainbows, grew closer to the blood dragon. In the opposite direction, Yen Lazy, with a respectful expression, followed an elderly figure in black robes. As the old man moved forward, each step caused the void beneath him to violently contract, as if trying to compress the boundless distance of heaven and earth into mere inches. This is not the shrinking earth technique that requires merging with heaven and earth. It is shrinking inches to void. No need to merge with heaven and earth. Wherever he stands, that place is heaven and earth. Even if it is just one realm, it is no more than an inch. He was not in a hurry to move forward, so each step he took maintained a certain rhythm, flowing like a cloud or water. The reverence in Yen Lazy's eyes deepened as he walked behind the old man, naturally enveloped by the strange divine ability of the elder. At the moment when the law of time enveloped the Void Realm, Wang Lin also felt its presence. However, his body was composed of rock that was born when the Moonstar was formed, and its age could not even be measured by the present time. The power of time enveloped him. Even though countless years may pass, without wind, the rock will remain as a rock. Calmly moving forward at high speed, Wang Lin saw the surrounding cultivators turning to nothing under the influence of time, completely vanishing into thin air. If we lose our status as cultivators, if we lose our divine abilities, we will ultimately still be mere mortals. Wang Lin sighed inwardly, yet his pace did not slow. If my true body had come today, under this law of time, I would become just like them, part of the void. I never expected that, after cultivating for hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of years, having comprehended the laws of heaven and earth, sometimes we are still no different from a piece of stone. Wang Lin shook his head, witnessing all of this, and suddenly had a new understanding of the word Tao. At the center of the Void Realm, the Blood Dragon, having absorbed the life force of countless cultivators who perished under the law of time, felt its body's blue ice crystals collapse with a loud bang. Its colossal body rose, roaring toward the void of heaven and earth. In that roar, a massive vortex appeared above it, spinning relentlessly. The sound of explosions echoed through the surroundings. A cold voice slowly emanated from the vortex, filling the void. "I am waiting for you." The moment the voice rang out, the black-clad elder's footsteps paused, and a serious expression appeared in his eyes. Yen Lazy behind him remained silent. He had heard this voice twice before, but this time, It was clearer, carrying an overwhelming, turbulent power. This madness disregarded the rules and scorned the way of heaven. But to Yin Lazy's ears, there was no hint of arrogance in the words. The might of a single strike from beyond Vermilion Birdstar was enough to possess such madness. The 8 kings of the Corpse-Een sect halted simultaneously, gazing at the swirling vortex in the distance, falling silent. But soon, their eyes gleamed with a mix of dark light and greed. Wang Lin also heard this voice. His body paused, and he looked ahead, his eyes filled with unwavering determination. No matter how strong Tuasan was, no matter how difficult the road, if Tuasan wished to kill him, Wang Lin would never bow. Many wish to kill me, but right now, I am still alive and well. Wang Lin smirked coldly, lifting his foot and moving forward once more. This was the truth. At this moment, the Void Realm was not just inhabited by the few around the center. Some shattered Nirvana cultivators, having resisted the law of time, were silently approaching from all directions of this void. Outside the Void Realm, those cultivators who had not entered the Void Realm had narrowly escaped the power of the law of time and survived. In this ancient god ruins, apart from the void, there was another place. Its existence could even be said to not belong to the ancient god ruins because it was, in fact, the ancient god ruins itself. This statement might sound contradictory, but it is true. The ancient god ruins has only one entrance on Vermilion Birdstar. The entrance leads to a spatial rift that does not belong to this star domain. This rift is vast enough to hold the massive body of an 8-star ancient god. The void, the barriers, all exist within the body of this ancient god, just like right now, Wang Lin, the 8 kings of the Corpse-Een sect, and the black-clad elder were all inside the chest of the ancient god's body. Within this quiet spatial rift, the ancient god's body, which had lain here for countless years, held within its brow the dim light of 8 stars. If magnified countless times, one could see a person sitting in the deepest part of the 4th star. This person was a middle-aged scholar, his appearance ordinary, yet exuding a hint of arrogance. He sat there as if he had been there for an eternity, never once moving. His name was Wu Jizi, and from this, one could also see the madness of Tuasan, for it was this madness that allowed the blood dragon to open the vortex leading to the Crimson World. The black-clad elder did not act, silently watching the blood dragon, lost in thought. Yin Lazy's eyes flashed. With one step, he transformed into a streak of light, rapidly closing the distance to the blood dragon. In the distance, the 8 kings of the Corpse-Een sect showed no hesitation. Like 8 swords that had exited their sheaths, they charged straight toward the blood dragon. The blood dragon's eyes gleamed with caution. The strange formation formed by those 8 had caused it significant trouble earlier. At this moment, with a roar, it swung its head, ignoring Yin Lazy, and instead lunged directly at the 8 kings of the Corpse-Een sect, ready to devour them. Its speed was so fast that it left afterimages behind. The 8 figures of the Corpse-Een sect immediately scattered, circling the blood dragon. Each raised their hands to form seals, and their divine abilities materialized, launching toward the blood dragon in a storm of attacks. Yin Lazy, drawing near, waved his right hand. A sea of flames erupted before him, transforming into a fire dragon that charged at the blood dragon, engaging in fierce combat. At the same time, Yin Lazy reached into a spatial rift with his left hand and produced a bell. This bell, crafted from white bone and encased in metal, emitted a deep dong-dong sound. Although the sound wasn't crisp, the moment it rang, ripples of energy surged outward, heading straight for the blood dragon. The blood dragon's eyes flickered with a bloodthirsty light. Its pupils, which were originally a single pair, suddenly split. In an instant, they formed 4 pairs, and then divided again into 8 pairs of eyes within its gaze. A sense of crisis suddenly surged in the hearts of Yin Lazy and the 8 kings, but all 9 of them were rare and mighty cultivators, their powers far exceeding the perfect shattered nirvana stage. They had already entered the realm of heavenly decay, and their prolonged survival had made them extraordinarily experienced in battle. The moment they sensed the danger, they didn't retreat or hesitate. They chose to attack. For any divine art, the moment of peak power was often the weakest. This was the experience the Nine had come to understand over countless years. As they charged forward, Yin Lazy struck his forehead with his right hand. Instantly, 45 fragments flew out from above his head. These fragments rapidly expanded, transforming into 45 massive Thunder Immortal Realm fragments that blotted out the sky. Power of the Thunder Realm, tear the heavens' divine art. Yin Lazy shouted. The 45 fragments spun violently, pressing down toward the blood dragon with a deafening roar. The pressure that descended felt like a heavenly tribulation. It caused the very void to tremble, and the blood dragon's blood-sea body was riddled with countless tiny depressions. The 8 kings of the Corpsine sect, their minds connected, formed seals with their hands. 8 beams of light fused together to form the Black Ice Sphere, the third formation of the Corpsine sect that had previously injured the blood dragon. As the chilling aura filled the air, the formation was unleashed once again. 100-foot-wide Black Ice Sphere appeared, with the 8 cultivators seated within it, hands raised. The sphere began to glow faintly, and in the next instant, countless sharp ice shards shot out, heading straight for the blood dragon. The blood dragon's pupils suddenly contracted. In an instant, one of the 8 pairs of eyes expanded infinitely, covering the entire space within its gaze. At that moment, everything plunged into pitch darkness. This darkness was so intense that even divine sense could not escape. No one could see clearly in the oppressive blackness, only hearing the deafening crashes echoing through the air. The darkness lasted only a moment before everything returned to normal. However, when it did, Yin Lazy's 45 fragments had suffered a massive blow. 4 of them collapsed into countless shards, rolling backward, while the rest were forcibly pushed apart, retreating into the distance. Yin Lazy's face showed astonishment. The Black Ice Sphere formed by the 8 kings of the Corpsine sect was also struck by some unknown force, shattering with a thunderous roar. The 8 cultivators inside staggered back, each spitting blood, their cold eyes showing shock. The elder, who had been quietly observing from afar, lifted his head and furrowed his brow. He continued to ponder. There was something he couldn't understand. What exactly was Wu Jizi's goal? Could it be to seize the power of the royal ancient god of the 8 stars? But even immortal Emperor Wang Lin gave up on this matter. Wu Jizi, what method do you have to accomplish this? Wang Lin, standing at a distance, observed the battlefield without getting closer. The sudden darkness had made his heart race with danger, and he was cautious not to get too close. But the blood dragon, after this second encounter, gave Wang Lin a strange sense of familiarity. This feeling spread in his heart, causing his pulse to quicken. Wang Lin's gaze flickered. He had, of course, seen Yin Lazy and the black-robed elder. The moment he saw the elder, Wang Lin understood. Today, regardless of what Tuasen had planned, the blood dragon before him would not cause any trouble. But the elder furrowed his brow, seemingly deep in thought, without glancing at the blood dragon. To make Brother Qingshui halt, to open the spatial barrier with a single divine art, and to channel so much primordial force while comprehending all the rules, such a person, besides a third-step cultivator, what other possibilities could there be? The blood dragon's eyes had returned to normal, but its ferocious aura only intensified. The remaining 7 pairs of pupils in its eyes flickered again, growing larger and quickly taking over its entire gaze. The entire void was once again engulfed in darkness. Within this darkness, Wang Lin immediately felt an unusual force of rules encircling him, extending towards him as if it were trying to pull his essence spirit out, merging it into the darkness. This time, the darkness lasted for 2 breaths. After 2 breaths, Wang Lin's eyes showed confusion. He staggered back a few steps, and with a series of cracking sounds, 7 fissures appeared. His face turned iron gray, faintly revealing a color reminiscent of stone. Nearby, Yin Lazy, who was closest to the blood dragon, turned pale, retreating step by step. Fragments of the immortal realm circled in front of him. With several explosions, a few more shattered. As for the 8 kings of the Corpsine sect, 2 of them exploded, their bodies disintegrating in a loud bang. The remaining 6 hurriedly retreated, and one of them immediately retrieved 2 coffins from the storage rift. The 2 formless figures, having lost their physical bodies, swiftly entered the coffins. In an instant, the two coffins broke apart into splinters, and two elders walked out from within. As the 8 retreated, they quickly formed hand seals. One elder shouted, "Corpse in second formation." Upon hearing this, the 8 hastened their hand gestures, arranging themselves in a vertical formation. A cold, chilling aura enveloped them, and within moments, patches of profound ice appeared around their bodies. This ice was pitch black, and it was impossible to see the figures of the 8 inside. However, in the blink of an eye, the profound ice transformed into a massive 100-foot-long sword. As the sword materialized, an immense pressure descended, radiating an overwhelming sharpness that seemed capable of piercing the void. The sword's chi shot straight at the blood dragon. Yin Lazy's eyes widened. He bit the tip of his right finger, quickly drawing a blood-red seal in front of him. He slapped it forward, and the seal shot out. As it glowed with blood light, the remaining fragments of the continent of shards around Yin Lazy scattered, surrounding the blood dragon from all directions, seemingly trying to envelop it. The blood dragon's eyes darkened. The remaining 6 pairs of pupils flickered again, but this time, they didn't just occupy the eyes individually. Instead, all of them expanded, occupying both of its eyes. In an instant, the world plunged back into darkness, and 3 breaths later, the surroundings lit up once more. Without hesitation, Wang Lin retreated, avoiding the force of the dark night. However, his eyes flickered intensely, his gaze fixed firmly on the blood dragon. The ancient god's aura around the blood dragon grew ever more distinct. Yin Lazy's face turned even paler, but he pressed forward. His hand seals accelerated, and the dozens of shards continued to approach the blood dragon. The massive sword formed by the 8 kings of the corpse insect was less than 100 feet away from the blood dragon. Within the sword, faint sounds of rumbling could be heard, as though it was enduring some kind of assault. The darkness descended once more, shrouding the void, and this time, it lasted for 4 breaths. After 4 breaths, the void regained its former radiance. Wang Lin retreated even faster, but his eyes were filled with grim determination, locking onto the blood dragon. The sword formed by the 8 kings of the corpse insect seemed to slow down. In 4 breaths, it only traveled a little over 20 feet, and cracks began to form across it. Yin Lazy's face was flushed with veins bulging, yet the fragments still pressed closer to the blood dragon. Before long, everything disappeared, and the void was once again shrouded in darkness. Suddenly, thunderous roars echoed within this darkness. Faintly, the blood dragon's roars and howls could be heard. 5 breaths later, when the void light returned, Wang Lin's eyes blazed with sharp intensity. Without a second thought, he charged forward, heading straight for the blood dragon. Outside the blood dragon, the massive sword formed by the 8 kings of the corpse insect shattered, and the 8 kings of the corpse insect spewed blood as they staggered back. Yin Lazy had blood trickling from the corner of his mouth, retreating 3 steps before stabilizing himself. A long, gaping wound stretched from the blood dragon's head, spanning 1,000 feet. From a distance, the wound looked extremely gruesome. However, no blood poured out from the wound. Instead, there were blood-colored crystals the size of fists embedded in the wound, as if they were part of its flesh. The blood dragon roared, and its pupils expanded once again. But just as the darkness enveloped it once more, Wang Lin's figure suddenly shot forward at an incredible speed, disregarding everything else. His body reverberated with explosive sounds, and his left arm exploded in a violent burst, disintegrating into dust. Yet, his speed didn't falter, and his eyes glowed with urgency and unyielding determination. He never expected to encounter the blood of an ancient god here. With this, I can overcome the first decay of the 3 decays and 7 tribulations.